Hey, it's James, Fathers, Rights, and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. So let's talk about parent alienation, and I want to give you a couple bits of information if you're going to argue against an alienator. Obviously, alienation, mention it all the time in videos that alienation is psychological and emotional abuse of a child. You're depriving the child of a basic life need. Nothing is more important than the father outside of food, water, and air. So if you starve a kid for several months of food, you don't say, oh, let's give the kid a couple crumbs. No, you give the kid all the minerals and nutrients they need. Now, you don't give them steak and eggs the first day after they've been starving, but you feed them all that they need. A lot of times they'll say, oh, the mother's been withholding the child for a year now, so the child doesn't know the father, so let's do 2 hours of supervised visitation and reunification therapy. Why? That child, if that child's 7, that child went to kindergarten by themselves. Did they need reunification therapy to get to know their teacher and all the kids in school that they were in for 8 hours? Does the court do reunification therapy when they drop kick children into a foster home? CPS will rip kids out of a home that they've known their whole life, and then the courts will drop kick and assign children a foster care home. Sometimes when there's multiple kids, they'll separate them in different homes. The courts themselves know that kids adjust just fine. There's plenty of examples. Military reunion. Your dad was in Iraq for 6 months, a year and a half. He came home. The parents, just go online and look at military reunions on YouTube. The kids go running to the parents. They don't need reunification therapy and stuff like that. The kids need to be fed what they've been starving of: fatherly love and affirmation and bonding and relationships and all that stuff. They already, in almost every situation where there's alienation, they already know the father. You have your kids stay the night at some stranger's house, you barely know the parents, and they can't go to the father's for more than 2 hours. There's all kinds of common sense arguments that you and your lawyer never even try, and you go in with a weak-ass, punk-ass argument, and you just cross your fingers and hope you win, and you're not telling the judge the truth of what's going on. Why do you go to court and you don't tell the judge the truth? You tell the judge a lie. Oh, the mother's a great mother and wonderful. I just think the children need a father. The mother is committing child abuse. If she was stabbing, or she had the children, or slapping them around, or starving them, or whipping them with an iron cord or something, you would try and rip the kids out of there. But for some reason, you have such a low self-esteem image of yourself, you don't think that starving them of a father is that big of a deal, so you don't even ask for anything more than every other weekend. Children who are abused should be removed from the abuse. And the psychological abuse is just as bad as physical and sexual abuse, according to some people. So let's take a look at a video, and I'm going to show you something that's all been on my flow page, and 99% of you, I tell you guys, go look at all the free stuff I have. 99% of you are lazy, or you're sissy little bitches that want somebody to come by and hand you an Amazon front door delivery in 24 hours. Oh, here's, you're such a great dad, you automatically deserve 50-50 custody. Here's your package. You have to go out and earn it in a corrupt court system. So here's a couple tidbits on that. So if you're on TikTok and you don't know how to get to my YouTube channel, there's a link in the bio. Go to the main page of my TikTok and click on the link that's in there. It's a YouTube link. When I get to 1,000 followers, I'll be able to do my flow page. So if you look up here, it says flow code. You can click on that, or under every video. So let's look at under every video. There's a description, and sometimes I pin it in the comments. But in the description, where's the description? Oh, there we go. In the description, boom, there's a link to my flow page. So everybody should be saving this thing on their desktop or whatever in their favorites. Okay, so here's my flow page. Picture me and my daughter. There's an explanation of my flow page and shows you how to navigate it if you're lost. There's my online store, a video explaining things in my online store, the 3 most important things every dad needs, free documents, free samples of stuff, free pamphlets talking about mediation, when you cop a plea, how I make an attorney work for me. There's a sample of free interrogatories, how I put a diary together. There's a pamphlet on mediation, why it's a scam. Anyway, there's my costs. There's how to pay, my interview with Pearl. Link's gone now. Here's some of my winning orders showing I know what I'm doing. Must see information. Science, a TED Talk for 10 minutes. Lawyers and judges talking about how women lie about domestic violence stuff. You guys should be quoting this. This is free. If you aren't looking at this and quoting this stuff when she falsely accuses you of abuse, then you're just being a lazy bum and you don't care about your kids enough to fight. Troxel versus Granville. Everybody should know that case. Okay, stuff in every state. So there's this link in New York. Now, if you're not in New York, so there's a link in New York, you could still argue this. And there's this attorney who has the New York factors for determining custody, and he blogs about them, and he talks about them, and then he has supporting references. If you go all the way down to his references under the map, and I tell you in the description, right here, I tell you in the New York description, what you're looking for. So here we are. And this number 8, it's the citation and quotation of a case, Vargas versus Gutierrez. And it says parent alienation is such a bad thing that it's assumed that a parent is unfit to act as custodian. It is Vargas versus Gutierrez. I would copy and paste this whole thing and put it in a brief no matter what state I'm in. And what I would say is, hey, Your Honor, I know New York is not mandatory authority, but it is persuasive authority, and you can be persuaded by it. And New York is a state with one of the greatest cities in the history of the world. It's one of the more pronounced cities, a leader in commerce and innovation in science and progressivism and whatever that means. You know, politicians love saying stupid stuff like that. I don't even know what the word is. It supposedly sounds like we're progressing forward. Nobody even knows what it means. People just love saying words that don't mean anything, and then sheep love to listen to that stuff. But anyway, I would cite this case and say, New York City, one of the grandest cities in all the world, their higher courts have said that it's our public policy to consider alienation is such a negative, is such a horrific form of child abuse that that parent is automatically assumed to be unfit or likely to be unfit to be custodian. You should be putting this stuff in your paperwork. But if you guys aren't paying attention and you're lazy and you're cowardly and you don't want to say anything, you don't want to tell the judge what to think, the judge has to follow the law. So that's an attorney's job. Or when you represent yourself, you are telling the judge what to think. That's your job. And you guys are afraid to go to court, or your attorney's afraid to tell the judge what they should think. The whole purpose, that's why when you write a brief, it's called a brief, because you're briefing the judge on the law and reminding them of it, because they can't memorize the entire law. Duh. And then you should check out this YouTube channel, the Anti-Alienation Project. I'm going to put a link in this video. But this lady who talks about parent alienation, I haven't watched too much of her stuff. I just kind of glimpsed at it. But she's quoting Dr. Childress and showing this video. I'll put a link in the video below. And he says that alienation is just as bad as physical or sexual abuse, because you're ripping the child apart, ripping the child in half, tearing them apart. So here's some scientific backed or scientific analysis or study by a psychologist saying how bad it is. And you need to go in there and tell them how bad it is. So everybody agrees that if there's physical abuse, molestation, mom's boyfriend is molesting your kid, they should automatically be out of there, and the mom shouldn't have custody. But alienation is up there with that. And you need to call it what it is. And some of you guys say, oh, well, if I just throw out the term parent alienation syndrome, I automatically win. No, go in with stuff like this. Write it down. Write papers. Put scientific stuff in there. And if you don't know how to assemble this stuff together, get some of my packets in my store or get a console. Don't sit around and be a total numbnuts and not know what you're doing and think that's an excuse to lose out on your kids when all the information and tactics and ways of winning is out there for you to seize if you just reach out and get the help and do something about it or apply this knowledge. Do it.